Massachusetts General Hospital's maternity ward, May 15, 2024. As the deep blue night sky reflected in the window, Sarah Thompson gazed through the nursery glass at her newborn daughter, Emma. Wrapped in a white blanket, the tiny life breathed peacefully, like an angel. In her 15 years as a pediatric nurse, she had witnessed countless births, but never had her heart felt so tight with emotion. From the 14th floor nursery, she could see the panorama of Commonwealth and Beacon Hill. The moonlight reflected on the Charles River. Though Sarah had worked at this hospital for 15 years since graduating from Boston College's nursing school, tonight she stood there with entirely different feelings. Marriage at 35, 3 years of fertility treatments, and finally, a long-awaited pregnancy, it had all seemed like a miracle. Mrs. Thompson. She turned to find Dr. Kleinman standing there with a grave expression. The veteran obstetrician with over 20 years of experience lacked his usual calm demeanor. "I need to discuss your daughter's condition." Those words sank into her heart like heavy lead. As a medical professional, she understood all too well what that tone meant. Emma has been diagnosed with a cleft palate. There's an opening in her upper jaw that will likely cause feeding difficulties. The CT scan shows fissures in both the hard and soft palate. As she listened to the doctor's words, Sarah's professional knowledge clashed violently with her maternal emotions. Treatment options covered by Blue Cross Blue Shield, the number of specialists needed, long-term developmental impacts, all this information flooded her mind like a tidal wave. Beside her, her husband Michael squeezed her hand tightly. Working in IT, he was clearly struggling to maintain his usual composure. "Surgery is possible, but we'll need to wait until she's 2 months old. In the meantime, we'll need to use special bottles and carefully monitor her weight." As the doctor continued his explanation, Sarah heard someone gasp behind her. Turning around, she saw her mother-in-law Barbara leaning against the wall. Her usually gentle expression was distorted, as if seeing a nightmare from 40 years ago. Born in Boston in 1959 and once a pediatric nurse at this same hospital, her face had turned ashen. "Barbara? Are you all right?" When Sarah called out, Barbara shook her head slightly, as if coming back to herself. Her hands appeared to be trembling. "Yes, I'm fine. Just remembering the past." Sarah sensed something odd about those words, but she had no time to dwell on it. The doctor's explanation continued with details about using special bottles, weight management, and the care plan leading up to surgery. Occasionally, the chaplain would stop by to offer kind words. 5 days later, on discharge day, Barbara stood by the window and whispered, "In the old days." Her words trailed off, dissolving into the air unheard. Outside the room, warm winds had already begun carrying the scent of lilacs, heralding the approach of Memorial Day. Life in their Commonwealth Avenue home proved more challenging than imagined. Even with her nursing experience, feeding Emma with the special bottle wasn't easy. Emma struggled to swallow enough and often cried out in distress. Sarah carefully searched Whole Foods Market for special baby food and paid extra attention to her shopping at Star Market. Every night, Barbara helped Sarah with almost obsessive dedication. She drove her Volvo XC90 to accompany them to hospital appointments and took over household duties. Yet there was something unnatural about her behavior. Even when Emma was sleeping at night, she would secretly enter the room and point her smartphone camera at her. After returning from Sunday services at Sacred Heart Church, the sound of prolonged prayers could be heard. One day, Sarah happened upon Barbara in the living room, looking through an album. It was an old leather-bound volume, and Barbara was turning the pages through tears. Strangely, there wasn't a single photograph of Michael's childhood. Just as Sarah was about to ask, "What are you looking at?" Barbara hastily closed the album and tucked it away in a medicine box. Inside that box, something metallic gleamed briefly, what appeared to be a suture kit from the 1980s. As June approached and surgery day drew nearer, Barbara became increasingly agitated. Even during family dinners at Legal Seafoods, she often seemed lost in distant thoughts. This tendency became more pronounced as June 15th approached. "I must go to church on this day," she would say. As Sarah watched Barbara's retreating figure leave for church, she seemed to carry some heavy burden on her shoulders. Standing on the commuter rail platform watching her mother-in-law walk away, Sarah felt her anxiety growing. 12:15 a.m., June 14, 2024. 1 month after discharge from Massachusetts General Hospital, an unusual cry woke Sarah. Breaking the night's silence, punctuated only by the distant rumble of Commonwealth's light rail, came a sound distinctly different from Emma's usual cries. It was filled with pain and urgency. Sarah rose from bed in the blue glow of the bedroom clock. Beside her, Michael was breathing deeply in sleep. Through the window, Boston College's clock tower loomed faintly in the night fog. "Emma." Treading softly down the hallway, she noticed a faint light coming from Emma's room. A bluish glow, like from a smartphone screen, leaked from the normally dark room. As she approached, she heard low muttering. The voice seemed to echo from 40 years ago, carrying a distant resonance. "Soon, you'll be better soon. I'll fix everything." It was Barbara's voice. But it was completely different from her usual warm tone, carrying an almost alien coldness. The moment Sarah's hand touched the doorknob, her blood froze. She heard a faint metallic clicking, a sound she knew well as a nurse. The sound of surgical instruments. Slowly opening the door, she witnessed a shocking scene illuminated by moonlight. There stood Barbara, holding surgical needles and thread. Standing over Emma's crib with old medical instruments that looked like they were from the 1980s. Dressed in white nightclothes that resembled a medical uniform, she appeared to be acting out a scene from 40 years ago. "Oh, Sarah. Look. I fixed her. She won't hurt anymore. Just like 40 years ago." Barbara's voice trembled with excitement. Looking closer, Sarah saw blood trickling from Emma's mouth. A special feeding bottle lay overturned on the floor, surrounded by scattered old medical instruments. "What are you doing? Stop." Sarah's scream shattered the night's silence. Michael burst into the room, startled awake. The color drained from his face. "Mom, what is this?" Michael's voice shook. But Barbara, as if deaf to her son's voice, continued trying to perform the procedure. 911. Call an ambulance, quickly. Sarah's nursing training took over in this emergency. She quickly grabbed clean towels to stop Emma's bleeding. While beginning first aid procedures until the paramedics arrived, she tried to make sense of the chaos in her mind. Amid the family's panic, only Barbara remained eerily calm. It was an unsettling calmness, as if she were straddling the line between reality and fantasy. Just like 40 years ago, the same thing. I couldn't save that child, but this time. As the ambulance sirens approached, those words hung in the air like a heavy mystery. The clock tower's bells striking 12:30 echoed like an ominous portent. Despite the late hour, the emergency department at Massachusetts General Hospital responded swiftly. Many staff members recognized Sarah from her previous work there. Dr. Anderson, emergency. Infant with cleft palate, suspected inappropriate procedure. The gray-haired physician who appeared in response to the nurse's call froze at the scene. Particularly when he saw Barbara, his expression changed to something close to horror. Barbara. No. It can't be you. All eyes turned to Barbara at those words. But she just stared into space, repeating incomprehensible phrases. Medical terminology from the 1980s created a discordant atmosphere in the modern emergency room. During the police questioning, Barbara's confusion peaked. Even the priest called from Sacred Heart Church couldn't calm her. I just wanted to fix it, what I couldn't do back then. Called in by psychiatrist Dr. Rosenfeld, the possibility of 40-year-old trauma was suggested. In the process, unexpected documents were discovered in the hospital's old archives. They were Michael's birth certificate and another certificate, both dated May 15, 1984. However, one certificate included a date of death, June 15, 1984. Twins. I had a brother. Michael's voice echoed heavily in the 14th floor corridor of Massachusetts General Hospital. The morning sun reflected off the Charles River, streaming blindingly through the high windows. Michael's hands trembled as he sat in the old leather chair, holding the ancient medical records Dr. Anderson had presented. The yellowed pages clearly stated the fact: Michael Thompson had a twin brother. Moreover, they were twins born with the same condition. Male infant, born May 15, 1984. Severe cleft palate. Dr. Anderson slowly turned the old pages as he read. Twins. Firstborn. His voice trailed off. Memories of 40 years ago seemed to reflect in the elderly doctor's eyes. Outside the window, Boston was awakening. The Green Line's morning rush hour sent subtle vibrations through the building. I was Barbara's colleague. She was a dedicated nurse. Especially in the newborn unit, more than anyone. Dr. Anderson sighed deeply. In that era, cleft palate treatment wasn't as advanced as it is today. Particularly for severe cases, the survival rates were nowhere near what they are now. May 15, 1984. Twin babies born with severe cleft palates. Even at Massachusetts General Hospital, they didn't have the advanced treatment techniques available today. No 3D ultrasound diagnostics, no prenatal diagnosis, none of today's surgical techniques. Within the limitations of medical technology at the time, Barbara fought desperately both as a nurse and as a mother. Both had the same condition. However, the older twins' case was more severe. Dr. Anderson pulled out an old photograph showing a young Barbara holding a newborn. Barbara provided round-the-clock care. Being a nurse herself, she tried everything possible, sometimes even beyond the rules. The old records contained detailed nursing notes, feeding amounts, weight changes, and treatment details. Barbara's meticulous handwriting conveyed her desperate determination. Back then, we didn't have special feeding bottles, and nutritional management wasn't as advanced as it is today. Barbara tried various methods, constantly innovating. Her colleagues were moved by her dedication. But after 2 months, on June 15, complications took the older twins' life. The death certificate was attached to the record, matter-of-factly. However, faint tear stains remained on the edge of that page. After that, Barbara changed completely. Sudden resignation. End. Dr. Anderson gazed out the window. No one could blame her. As both a mother and a nurse, she had done everything humanly possible. As Dr. Anderson explained, all the mysteries began to make sense. The day she never missed going to church each year. The midnight prayers. The photos in the old album. Everything connected to this day 40 years ago. The absence of Michael's childhood photos was because seeing them would remind her of the child she lost. I never understood. Mother's pain. Michael's voice trembled. Who could have known that such deep pain lay behind his mother's gentle smile? That 40 years of weight was hidden in casual conversations. The wind whistling through Commonwealth Avenue's tree-lined street rattled the hospital window. The sound was like a baby's cry echoing across 40 years. In the corner of the room, Emma, having received emergency treatment, breathed peacefully. But why all this time? In Sarah's heart, anger transformed into sadness. Behind Barbara's disturbing behavior lay a mother's pain that had gone unspoken for 40 years. A truth she couldn't tell her son. And that pain had been reawakened by Emma's birth. According to the medical records from that time, Barbara once attempted to perform treatment on her son herself. Dr. Anderson pulled out another old record. Of course, it wasn't permitted. But as both a mother and a nurse, she couldn't stand by doing nothing. The trauma from that experience manifested in today's events. Outside the window, Boston College's bells tolled noon. The sound rang like a bridge connecting 40 years ago to the present. The bells of Sacred Heart Church chimed in harmony. We can't blame Mother. Michael's voice was filled with determination. But from now on. Just then, the hospital room door opened softly. Barbara stood there, accompanied by a psychiatrist. 40 years' worth of tears glistened in her eyes. With the latest surgical techniques, the success rate is over 95%. The 3D modeling pre-surgical planning is perfect. Dr. Anderson's words resonated through Massachusetts General Hospital's conference room. Outside the window, early summer sunlight sparkled on the Charles River. On the conference room's large screen, detailed 3D images of Emma were displayed. Barbara, look at this. This is modern medical technology. The doctor spoke gently. It's different from your era. Medicine has made definite progress. The screen showed detailed pre-surgical plans. Operating room reservations, post-operative care plans, rehabilitation schedules. Everything was meticulously planned. On the table lay catalogs of the latest medical equipment. This was exactly the future of medicine that Barbara had dreamed of 40 years ago. This surgery has thousands of successful cases worldwide. And we have the best surgeons, Dr. Anderson continued. Dr. Sarah Chen, an expert with 20 years of experience in cleft palate surgery. The conference room walls displayed photographs of numerous successful cases. Before and after surgery comparisons. Children living happy lives. These were proofs of hope that would have been unimaginable 40 years ago. Moving to the counseling room, the family spent a long time talking. With support from psychiatrist Dr. Rosenfeld, Barbara began confronting memories she had sealed away for 40 years. Outside the window, Commonwealth Avenue's trees swayed in the early summer breeze. The bells of Sacred Heart Church could be heard in the distance. I thought I could save that child, Barbara's voice trembled. Being a nurse, I thought I could do it, but... Michael quietly placed his hand over hers. Mom, it's okay that you never told me about my brother. I understand how painful it must have been. Family counseling continued as sunlight streamed through Sacred Heart Church's stained glass windows. They wove together past pain, present fears, and future hopes, one thread at a time. Dr. Rosenfeld, as a trauma care specialist, carefully began unwinding the knots in her heart. The surgery took place in early July and was a perfect success. Modern medical technology and 40 years of progress saved a life that couldn't be saved before. In the post-operative recovery room, Dr. Anderson smiled quietly. Barbara, your hopes have truly been carried forward to the next generation. The following spring, in Sacred Heart Church's garden, Emma spoke her first word amid the fragrance of lilacs. Her clear voice rang out. Mama. Tears fell from Barbara's eyes at the sound, this time, tears of joy. During dinner at Legal Seafoods, she quietly spoke to her family. I've decided to start a support group for mothers who've had similar experiences, she said, placing a new pamphlet on the table. It's called Hope for Tomorrow. Things are different now than they used to be, there's so much more hope. I want to share that hope with everyone. Barbara's voice carried new determination. Her volunteer work had begun at Massachusetts General Hospital's pediatric ward, transforming 40 years of pain into new hope. Every Thursday, she visited the hospital, sharing time with families in similar situations. She found new connections while shopping at Star Market. Sometimes, she would spend hours counseling at the Whole Foods Market Cafe. The sound of the commuter rail passing by shook Commonwealth Avenue's trees. That sound no longer brought fear, it was like bells announcing new beginnings. Our experiences can become someone else's hope. Barbara's words resonated with many people at the Hope for Tomorrow photo exhibition in the hospital lobby. There hung photographs of her from 40 years ago alongside current pictures of Emma. The thoughts of mothers, connected across time. The pain of the past doesn't disappear. But it can be transformed into hope. The sight of the three of them shopping at Whole Foods Market. The family smiles while choosing ice cream at Star Market. The time spent discussing the future over coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. Every June 15th, a special gathering takes place at Sacred Heart Church. A prayer meeting to transform old pain into new hope. Mothers from various generations come together. Family bonds sometimes hurt, sometimes heal, but always grow stronger. It's a new story of hope, woven across 40 years. Now, in the streets of Boston, a new morning is about to begin.